Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
It is Wednesday, and all of today's guests, including John Shannon, standing by, sponsored by Basant that's a wrong read. Brought to you by the Vancouver Canadians. This segment's off to a great start. Caesar coming off a 12-8 win against Eugene last night, which extended their franchise record win streak to 11. Their next homestand begins next Tuesday night against Tri-City. Check out the full schedule. Get your tickets at CanadiansBaseball.com or call 604-872-5232. We're going to talk about Canada-Honduras, by the way, at BC Place last night in the next segment, among other items. John Shannon joining us now from 100% Hockey. John, thanks for doing this, sir. How are you?
I'm great, boys. How are you?
Very, very well, very well. What do the Panthers have that the Oilers and every other team in the NHL doesn't?
They have 3 number one lines. They don't have a second or a third line. They're all number one lines. They have a great goaltender, and they have depth on defense. And they also have a philosophy that I think it's almost been misunderstood in the last 24 hours, that this team does everything together. Mm-hmm. I think the brotherhood that exists with this group, road, home, the whole concept of what they've built in Fort Lauderdale with their practice facility and people living close by and using golf carts, as we've already seen today. Mm-hmm. That's what the Panthers have built. They have built a culture that is going to be difficult to replicate anywhere else.
So where does that come from, John? Does it start at the top? Is it Bill Zito? Is it Paul Maurice? Is it Barkov, the captain? Where does it start?
I actually think it starts with ownership. Vinny Viola has learned a lot of lessons since he bought the club and made a lot of mistakes early on. He's prepared to admit that. But I think when you bring a group of people together and you go out and say, we need the best, and I put Roberto Luongo on that list. They have a great front office. Bill Zito gets all the credit. Rick Dudley deserves a lot of the credit. Luongo deserves credit. They have kept some great people around the club. Robbie Tallis is their goalie coach, has done an amazing job. Paul deserves a lot of credit too, because I think Paul will be the first one to tell you how much he's learned and how much he's grown since taking over the Panthers as a coach. And then you do have to allow the players, which I think is a big part of it, to run so much of the culture. And that's Barkov, and that's Bennett, and that's Tkachuk, and that's Reinhart, and that's Ekblad. I mean, the list goes on. And so when you do add somebody like a Brad Marchand, he fits in very easily because he has so much respect for everybody else in the room, and everybody pulls in the same direction.
Boy, it's got to be a bad feeling in Edmonton today, John, back-to-back, losing in the final. Where do they go from here? Do they get a goalie? McDavid's contract, he's only got 1 year left. I mean, they're going to have some interesting decisions this summer as well.
I don't think there's any decision to be made with Connor. Connor, you write down 2 numbers.
Yeah.
How much do you want to get paid, and how long do you want to be under contract for? And that's the decision. I don't think the financial number is going to be a problem at all. I wonder, quite honestly, Rick, how long the term will be.
Yeah.
Will he do the 8 years as Leon has signed for last year? Connor's agent is now Judd Moldaver.
Yep.
Who you know, and Judd also represents Austin Matthews, who signed a new deal last year, and it was for 5 years in Toronto.
Bingo.
And so do you wonder that Connor doesn't sign for the max 8? Does he say, I'm going to go and sign a 5-year deal, happy to do it in Edmonton for everything that they've done in Edmonton, which allows him to sign another big deal at the age of 33, when heaven knows where the cap is, heaven knows where the Oilers are, and I think it gives him a little bit of of time to think about where he wants to finish his career. That would be to me the biggest question about the McDavid contract, not the money, but the term.
And you throw in Mitch Marner there in a couple of weeks. We're going to find out if he goes long-term or 5 years like Austin Matthews as well. Okay, this takes us to the Canucks. I'm talking to some people this morning, John. It's going to pick up. Trades, the signings. We've seen one with the Rangers already this morning. What are you expecting out of Vancouver? They're in on every top six forward, but teams want to get better. They don't want picks and prospects. It's tough making trades, and they don't have the greatest prospect pool or draft capital. It's going to be tough for them to get a top six piece, John.
Well, they could have a top six piece if they decide to re-sign Brock Besser.
Yeah.
But again, term's the issue there too, right, Rick?
Oh,
it's not money; it's term. So that would be one way to solve a bit of the problem. This is going to be a fascinating couple of days before the draft because, as you guys know, the managers aren't going to be in that same room as they were over the years at the draft in an arena. So a lot of the discussions have occurred at the Combine in Buffalo between the teams, and so I think a lot more is going to heat up between now and when the draft occurs in 9 days. So from that perspective, I think, yes, there's going to be some discussions. I think there's going to be a lot of teams. When you look at teams that have a lot of cap space, we had Pat Verbeek on the show on Monday. He's got $32 million to play with. And so there are going to be some trades. There are going to be teams that are going to be very, very interested in draft picks, depending on what their scouts feel this draft is like. But also there's going to be that group of teams that know that they can be patient. They don't have to be in the playoffs next year and can work their way towards credibility and long-term success if they get the right bodies and the right prospects at the appropriate time. So the answer is the phones are ringing. The phones are ringing a lot. It's just a question of, does it make financial sense for a team like the Canucks to dig deep? I don't think anybody has that answer yet.
Yeah. All right, Mr. Television, we've been talking about this this week and even last week. What would it take for TSN or Sportsnet to air Calder Cup final games involving the Abbotsford Canucks?
Well, I'm sure, the guy that runs that part of the business for the American Hockey League is a guy named Chris Nicolas, who's a really, really smart guy. Mm-hmm. I'm sure there have been discussions along the way. But when you look at what the properties are, both Rogers and Bell are demanding of their sports networks that they make money. Mm-hmm. And so the question becomes, how do you make money from a minor pro sports championship? And the answer is, in our country, when you're competing against the Stanley Cup final up until last night, and you're competing against the NBA finals, and you're competing against now the CFL, and you're competing against the Toronto Blue Jays, it's going to be difficult because nobody's going to do it for charity. Nobody's going to do it for the goodness of their heart. And so you have to run the numbers and say, how are we going to make money on it? And if we're not going to make money on it, then we're not going to do it.
Yeah, it's too bad, John.
It is. It is. What I did was I subscribed to the AHL TV package. So
well, you've got lots of money.
Yeah, exactly.
We don't have that.
Yeah.
Or if I had lived where you lived, I'd drive to Abbotsford and go to the game.
Yeah, that's
right.
That's not a bad point. That's not a bad point.
I know, because it's. I don't know if you know, but because I know Rick knows this, because when he drives to Toronto and he sees his pal Elliot, it's a little bit of a drive from Toronto to Abbotsford.
Yeah. That's what I hear. John, next week, thanks so much for this. Appreciate it. Well, I'm sure no games, but there'll be a lot to talk about NHL-wise.
I tell you what, Rick's right. It's going to start to heat up. I mean, the fact that the Rangers have been making trades what is that, 2 in the last 4 days now that they've done. And so Chris Drury's not waiting, and there's going to be a lot of teams that see Drury not waiting, and they're not going to wait as well.
Thanks for this, John. Next week.
Cheers.
You bet.